Wait for... Oh, he's back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all here today to celebrate Clare and Barry's wedding. Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Aaron. I'm a long-time friend of the groom. I have the unenviable task of being the best man, but I do so with great pleasure and honour. It is, of course, the time for the speeches when we get to share some of the embarrassing moments of the bride and groom's life. And I'd like to ask all of you for your attention and patience over the next half hour or so. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks.
Come on, he's on 30 minutes. Run a winner there.
Cheers. Liam Walsh, father of the groom, will speak first, followed by Adrian Leamy. Clare's brother will speak on behalf of the bride's father, and we look forward to that. After this, we will hear from the man himself with many nicknames, but for today he'll be called as the groom, followed by yours truly. So, where's Liam? So we can begin. The man is a legend. He recently jumped out of a plane in a desperate attempt to not leave you behind. I give you the father of the groom, Liam Walsh. Oh, absolutely.
Good evening, everybody. And just my granddaughter is the first person to start cheering. It's very obvious she has no idea what I'm going to say. I am absolutely delighted to be here today, and father of the groom is a job I thought, as the years went on, it looked kind of unlikely that it might ever happen. But Barry, I'd say from an early stage, knew that this was a multi-stage project. And it's hard to blame him because it's such an important step to take in life. I mean, when Barry first started dating many, many years ago, well, this was before the mobile phone was invented. But,
it never rang.
I didn't think we'd have to wait so long. But it's not that Barry wanted to be sure of his life's partner. He wanted to be sure, to be sure, to be sure, as the man would say. And indeed, as it had worked out, Barry was absolutely correct, because not alone did he get a absolutely fantastic girl, not alone is she a beautiful, beautiful girl, she's a beautiful person. I remember when Barry wasn't going with Clare very long, my daughter Kathy, who's here at the table today, she realised that the Clare that Barry was going with was actually a Clare that she worked with. And she came home to us and she said, actually, Clare Leamy, I actually worked with her. You know, it's not alone that she's just that she's a beautiful looking person. She actually is a beautiful human being. She's a beautiful person. She doesn't actually realise how beautiful she is. Now, isn't that a nice thing to say? And as time went on, and as we got to know Clare, and indeed our lovely family, what Kathy said was absolutely true. Clare is a beautiful person. What you see is what you get. And I am so proud. I have always been proud of my children, and I'm very, very proud of Barry. He has been a wonderful son. He has always been attentive and considerate, and as a son, we couldn't possibly have hoped to have such a son who was so nice and so good. And we are so delighted. We are so delighted that he ended up with somebody who is equally gorgeous. So, on behalf of the Walsh family, I just want to welcome Clare Leamy into the Walsh family, and all I can say is I wish them the best of luck all through their life and every happiness. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liam. He didn't have any notes there at all, did he? Ridiculous. I'm going to hand you over now to Adrian, who's going to speak on behalf of Clare's father. So give it up for Adrian Leamy. Cheers, thanks.
So, Mum and Dad have just asked me to read a few words on their behalf. Firstly, they would like to welcome Barry into the Leamy family. According to Mum, she now has a third son. As regards their beautiful and precious daughter Clare, they greatly admire her for her courage, stoicism and positivity, which she portrayed with all the physical challenges she has had to face. She bore these with great optimism, receiving great encouragement and support from Barry. Mum and Dad have had the privilege of witnessing the great love they have for one another. They are immensely proud of her academic achievements, even though Clare is very modest about these, especially her fluency in German. They wish Clare and Barry all the happiness in the world which they deserve. I also now have an opportunity on behalf of myself and my brother David to basically we've been so blessed and honoured to have Clare as a sister. She's very loving, caring, funny, and she also possesses the greatest of all the human traits. She puts herself before others. That wasn't supposed to be funny. She's always been there for us, as she knows we are for her. And I just hope Barry appreciates all the years of arguments, fighting, teasing, myself and David had to go through in order to mould the person that you see today. So that is with great honour. Could you please stand up and raise a toast to Clare and Barry?
Folks, can we give a warm applause for Barry Walsh, the groom?
Either the lads have a great way of hiding their notes, or I'm the only fool with notes on me. I got one here on the left. Thanks to Adrian for the great speech and the gentle ribbing that I can now safely avoid. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for the effort you've made to be here today to celebrate our marriage. Thanks to our distinguished guests from as far as Australia. And as wide as Declan O'Driscoll's new waist. You're looking good. Our photographer Brian Terry, who's a legend by the way, he once said to me, for a good speech, keep it short, keep it honest, and sit down. In that case, I think I've said enough, and I'm telling the truth. No, that's not true. Firstly, I'd like to thank my parents, Sally and Liam, and of course my wonderful sisters, Sarah and Kathy, for all their love and support over the years. One of the great strengths of my life has always been the security of knowing my parents would be there to help, because they always have. From lifts here and there to wearing money to foreign countries after the so-called shaky phone call. The lonely walk to the telephone box with €2 or $2 coins or something like that. To the clandestine dinners smuggled to me after a busy day. Thanks, Mum, for that. Number 10 Calderwood Circle It was always a place with a lot of smiles, warmth and generosity. And of course, talking. In fact, it's hard to believe anything else fitted in given the legendary Corbett chatting ability. And if any of you had met my Auntie Frances, you'd know what I'm talking about. I'd like to thank also my mother, especially for her creativity and hard work on the flowers that we saw today, which was fantastic. So fortunately for me, I was to be introduced to another fine household in the Leamys of Carrigaline. And of course, originally from Cashel and from Suffolk. Oh, pardon me, the Kelleher's from Suffolk. And it speaks. Again, a fondness for chat prevailed in their household, and from the first day I met them, they've always made me feel incredibly welcome. I would also like to thank Clare's brothers, Adrian and David, for their Indian... I had a line there about their Indian brotder, Devish, but you might have missed the profusion in his head that existed for the last few days, but we won't talk about that. Actually, I was meant to drop the mic for this part of it. Sorry about that, David. So, going back to that, I'd like to thank Adrian and Dave for their frank and honest chat on the extreme physical violence they would receive should I not treat their sister in the way she rightly deserves. In fact, the first time I showed up at the Leamy's house, they had drafted in an international rugby player to make the point who sat next to me and showed me his giant shovel hands as he said hello. So, you can trust me when I say I will always love and protect her. I would especially like to thank Bridget and John for the help and support in this wedding and other ways. Starting at John's handiwork in putting love hearts on all the invitations. And I can thoroughly recommend Bridget's homemade chips, pavlova, and wonderfully enlightening laughter and good spirits. I would also have recommended her lasagna, but I wouldn't want to start a family feud given the long history of lasagna excellence in the Walsh household. So I'm not going to go there. Yeah, well, this is true. One of my personal favourite things about weddings is the sense of community it generates both at and before the event itself. And this wedding has especially turned to the talents of our friends and relatives. From the invitations to the menus, to the music, to the photography, and of course the good solid event management. On the last point, I'd like to thank all my groomsmen and lady. Today, to be fair, you didn't... To be fair, you didn't have a huge amount to do today other than look good. Which indeed you do. But it's likely that after 10 p.m. you'll probably let us down somewhat on that. But not you specifically. But I'm sure you've tried your best, and for that I thank Chris, Declan and Kathy. When Clare mentioned she was having 4 bridesmaids, I thought she was possibly planning a New Year's Day revolution. But it just turns out she was wearing a needy dress. Now, I have a little caveat to put up to this line. I wrote this line under the assumption that Clare's dress was huge. Which, there was some gag set up to make me think it was, and it worked. So, you know, evidence. But no, thanks to all the bridesmaids. You've looked fantastic, as has Clare's dress, I must admit. But you've been a great help, and you look fabulous, and thank you very much for your help. And that's Ciara, Finn, Emer and Karen. Hands up, girls. So, even though I'm at the second page, you know, his speech is shorter than mine, so you'll be okay. So I'm not going to stand up here all day and bore you with bad jokes. That's the best man's job. And no doubt, he's going to do a good job of that, I'm sure of it. But I'd like to thank Aaron for the years of friendship and the curious collection of random circumstances that we ended up in over the years, as well as his unfailing ability to make any room more fun. In a good way. There's one special lady at home in Quinn, County Clare, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. And that's my grandmother, Frances Corbett. She's 98 and a fine woman for it. She went out and got the paper today. Respect. From playing hurling for County Clare to flying in a helicopter on her 90th birthday, her indomitable spirit has been a great inspiration to me and in fact most people who meet her. So I'd like us to send our best wishes to her today. And so, to the star of the day and the star of my life, Miss Clare Leamy, or Clare Walsh, as she's now like to be known officially. She's not right. Yeah. There's a buffer period apparently. Yeah, that's good. Clare and I had a strangely entwined life prior to meeting. Firstly, she was working with my sister Kathy, and secondly, my groomsman Declan had tried to introduce me to this mystery girl who he thought I'd get on with. Not get it on with, but... And for whatever reason, even though we knew many of the same people, we repeatedly managed to never actually meet. A one-man ambiance in the corner there. But poor old destiny was clearly busting his ass to try to hook us up, and eventually we did meet. So I'd love to say it was love at first sight, but given the hour of our acquaintance, I'd have to say we both probably looked a little blurry around the edges. However, what I saw at the time had me marching across the dance floor before I knew what was going on. As it happened that night, my housemate Barry, hands up, he had the impeccably good idea to throw a party which allowed me to try my hand at a kiss. To which I was offered the now immortal line, "I don't kiss boys at parties." Fortunately for me, Emer, her friend and Groom's our bridesmaid today, was able to talk some good sense into her. And on the way out the door, she showed me that she had decided to make an exception to her rule. And of course, I'm glad that she did. Because if some time traveller had stumbled across me when I was 14 or 15, in some random circumstance, and showed me a picture of my future wife, I genuinely don't think I would have believed them. Because in all of my wildest dreams, I could never have hoped to have met such a beautiful, intelligent, thoughtful and talented woman as the woman who is now my wife. So, and I'm really looking forward to spending the next stage of our lives together, knowing that I have someone incredibly special by my side to help us both through it. So, in the interest of you not upping and downing like a crowd at a German beer festival, I'd like you to all stay upstanding for the next series of toasts. To our parents and grandparents, thank you for your love and support. Yay. To our sisters and brothers, thank you for being our friends. To our bridesmaids and groomsmen, thank you for years of putting up with us. To Clare, my bride and joy, here's to a good sense of humour and a short memory. And of course, a huge thanks to you all for coming, and make sure you save some energy to ring in 2011, because that's what we're here for. Hold on. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. We're close to it, but we're not there yet. So I'll be passing over to my best man shortly. By the way, some people don't know that Aaron has recently flirted with becoming a writer. So he may have mixed up some of his pages, and some of the things he may say will most likely come from one of these stories. He also indicated that he's really looking forward to some uncomfortable silences and our heckling from the back row. So, lads, I've ye there placed, sorted out. So, finally, I'd like to end with the last shut-up line I'll ever use, and the best I've ever heard. To my lovely wife, every day you look lovelier and lovelier, and today you look like tomorrow. I love you. And Happy New Year to everyone.
In typical Barry Walsh fashion, he just flat it again. Sorry. Great speech. In typical Barry Walsh style, you've set the standard. I didn't know you were going to end that bit into the end, but cheers anyway. But he set the standard again, as he usually does, and dares us all to follow. And I think you'll agree when I say, with regards to Clare, his vivacious bride, he has set the bar well and truly out of reach. I got handed a load of these notes, by the way, about 5 minutes ago, so I better get to these because otherwise they'll be forgotten. I got an email from Emmett Martin to Clare and Barry, wishing you all the best today and every day in the future. We hope you have a really great day and enjoy your moment. That's from Emmett and Pauline, which is his parents. And we can't forget to thank little William and Rhiannon, who came all the way from, I think, Wales, was it? Yeah. Who gave out the order service booklets. And a big thank you to little Sarah O'Mahony. Sarah is over there. Give a big wave to Sarah. She brought up the rings. And of course, little Jessica, the flower girl. Jessica wanted to say a few words earlier, but it's grand. Yeah. When Barry told me by text, I'm sure as everyone else, that he and Clare got engaged, my response was probably universal, as in about bloody time. But of course, a week later, that was upgraded to a wedding in true rock and roll fashion. But we all look forward to the big event, and I can honestly say that Berlin was amazing. It was brilliant, and it was great success, and thanks for that. Cheers. But the first time I met Barry was at the age of around 10 or 11. We were both vying for TV stardom on a little show called Anything Goes. Some of you are probably too old or too young, I don't know, to remember it. As a future of Irish basketball, but that didn't really work out. But later on in our teens, our paths would cross again as mutual friends, and it was from here, and the time we both worked in Dublin, that I shared an interest in kind of squeezing a laugh out of the mundane seemed to forge our friendship. But even from his teens, he was a trendsetter, or to borrow a phrase from Chris, women wanted him and men wanted to be him. That was Rick's words, by the way. And yet he's still the exact same guy that I met all those years ago, as you see here today, excluding the scars, which may add resulted from James Bond-esque like action scenes, exploding gas cylinders, to being almost completely flattened by an Arctic truck. And that's just to name but a few. And no doubt the mental scars probably accumulated from bailing me out over the years, but that's another story. But you'd be forgiven for thinking this man is devoid of faults. Even Superman struggled in the presence of kryptonite. You see, Barry can sometimes suffer from what can only be described as sudden narcolepsy. There's only a few of us here probably who've been around to experience that. At a moderate amount of alcohol, coupled with a lack of sleep, at altitude, and this infliction would commonly strike without warning, thus rendering him utterly useless. Not too much like fainting goats. It's quite possible that during these snoozes that he was dreaming of his future wife, but we have no evidence to back this up. So in these conditions, he slept in a chairlift, on the piste, off the piste, and finally in a toilet cubicle at a restaurant at 2,000 metres. But I have no doubt this condition is purely altitude-based, so no need to be alarmed, Clare. But before we lavish the bride and the groom with romantic compliments, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our hosts here at Ballinacurra on behalf of everyone for putting together an amazing reception and an acceptable location. Once again, we all benefit from the great taste that the bride and groom share. So give it up for Ballinacurra. But it's a great honour to represent Barry as his best man on this special day for himself and Clare. And I know that they were both very grateful to all of you family and friends who have travelled from near and far to join them today in their celebration. But before I go on, there's two women here that have just been superseded by Clare in their beauty, and that is the mother and father, or the mother of the bride and the mother. Bridget and Sal, can you give it up for the two next best looking women in the house this evening? Thank you. But let's not forget those who couldn't make it for whatever reason. I know Dave Watson, Barry's cousin, mentioned his deep regret of being unable to attend today. And in Berlin, albeit at 2 a.m, proclaimed his dying love for Barry, which I accepted on the basis he understood that he was getting married to Clare. And he did, and then he followed more confessions of true love when he described Clare's beauty as out of control. And looking at her today, I'm sure you all agree. And her beauty is out of control, and we thank Dave for that comment. Did he? You can say that at the end, this is news to me. But I have no doubt that Barry will love and protect Clare throughout their marriage and well into old age. As long as I've known Barry, he has managed to forge success at whatever he puts his heart and mind to. And no doubt I believe that both of you ridiculously talented people will make a tremendous success of your marriage for years to come. I've got to know Clare over the last years and never struggled to understand why these two work so well together. Excluding the out-of-controlness, as Dave mentioned earlier, her sense of fun, adventure and honesty, to name but a few, makes my mate Barry the luckiest guy in the world, and I have no fear that he doesn't need me or anyone else to remind me of this. But at this time, I'd like to thank the bridesmaids for all their effort and hard work, and compliments on the stunning dresses. That was your call, was it, in the colours? Fantastic hair, that was amazing. And I'd like to finish with thanking the bride and groom, for whom I am most grateful and humbled for asking me to be the best man, that I hope that this day is the beginning of the rest of your lives, and may you can continue to invite all of us to your barbecues for the years to come. So can we all stand up and toast the bride and groom, please? I never have to do that when I get out again, but I'm so glad. It's fucking hard act to follow after this little bar, so all of it's your rope. Do you want to say, just tell them where they want to go? Or may we all go mad? Let's go bonkers? What do you want to say? Let's go bonkers. You want to tell them?
Okay, thanks very much, folks. I probably shouldn't be emceeing, but anyway, what's happening now is that we will shortly be leaving this room. There's a band in next door called Manu Latino who'll be kicking it Espanol style. So we want to see some dances from everyone, no slouching in the corners. It is New Year's Eve. She really wants to speak, but she says she doesn't.
I wasn't prepared to speak at all, so please excuse me. But I just have to say that oh no, it's do this. Okay.
Reassure them that when you said you can't, you didn't mean you didn't want to marry.
It wasn't when I said I can't, it wasn't. I didn't want to marry Barry. It was this has happened, and I'm like a Pringle. Once I start crying, I can't stop. But I just have to say, I feel like the luckiest girl in the world today. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm surrounded by all my close friends and family, and I've just married the guy of my dreams. So I'm keeping this short because, as I said, I had nothing to plan, but tonight isn't just about myself and Barry, it's about all of you because it is New Year's Eve, and I'd just like to, for everyone, to raise a toast to a Happy New Year, and I hope it's a healthy and happy one for everyone. So, Happy New Year, everyone.
I guess that's it.
Anyway, that's it.